During a high school class project, my teacher told me it's unrealistic being a CEO. It's been my dream to be a CEO since I was 10. So I told her, it is realistic. Follow me on my journey to learn what it takes to become a CEO. Welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. Today I'm here with Dr. Forbes Riley. How are you doing today, Forbes Riley?
I am extraordinary.
I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to come on. I do truly appreciate that, so thank you.
For those of you who don't know, I teach people how to pitch. I'm known as the queen of pitch. I've sold over $2.5 billion worth of product. And Mychal wandered into one of my classes and became a phenomenal, exemplary student. What did you get out of working with me?
The biggest thing that I got was to be able to know how to position yourself in a way where the person that you're talking to knows what you do so that you know when to say what to who. I think that's been my biggest thing that I've been able to take away. At least in these past couple of months, I've been a lot better at knowing when to say the right story to the right person. And it's helped me convert and help me get into more meetings to have more clientele and have more people join my mission.
That's what learning how to pitch will do for you guys. It's funny because we go to school and we learn a lot of things. We learn math and science. And if we're lucky, maybe we go to a college and we learn a little bit more of something. But I've never been anywhere where people have taught us how to pitch, how to get what we want, how to communicate what that is. And so I got to my level of fame long before you were born in a place called infomercials. And infomercials was on television, and it was the precursor to TikTok Live and Shop and all of those things that we now know. But we did really well. And we did it through a television camera. And I created a system and a formula that allows you, whenever you're out networking, and you're going to hear this question all the time. Someone's going to say to you, hey, Mychal, what do you do? And you're like, I do this and I do that. And then you don't say very much, or you freeze up, or you stumble. And one of the problems with that basic intro is that you're not really thinking about the other person. And so I would get out a pen. For those of you under 30, that's what that is. And you write with it on something like this. Hey, Mike, everybody else I know texts, I'm still writing, and I'll tell you what, it serves me well. And what you want to be thinking about is that when someone asks you, what do you do? They don't really care what you do. Mm-hmm. So why are you reading a laundry list? I graduated here and I've got this certificate and I'm that good for you. What they're really asking is, hey, what can you do for me? How do we have a relationship? So Mychal, you've got a podcast and you ask me, hey, Forbes, would you be willing to be on it? And so I might ask you, you know what? I'm doing that because you're a student. If you weren't a student of mine, I might question you harder. I might say, hey, what's the size of your audience and why would I want to spend my time being on your podcast? So you might want to reframe the pitch going, hey, Forbes, you know what? I love your message, but I think it's important that you get it out to people my age. Mychal, you're still under 20, right? And his dad just peeked his head in, very sweet man with a bright smile. And he said, you did something for my son I couldn't do. And that's always the truth when you're not the mom or dad. And so if I can be a voice to other kids your age, and I've got 2 kids, I would go, oh, that's a good pitch. I'm happy to do that. But people very rarely let the other person know why they should be engaged in the conversation.
Thank you for that. Can you tell us, like, when you knew you were going to be on TV, you knew infomercials were going to be something that you were going to do? When did you know that you're going to turn that into a career?
I still haven't figured that out yet. So here's the fun thing. One of the things about life is don't be too rigid. I will present you opportunities. And if you're so dogmatic, like, no, this is what I'm doing, that's all you get. I used to have 85 to 100 1099s every year because that's how many jobs I did. What does that mean? I get real bored very easily and I don't really want to work for anyone else. My dream was to be an actress. And so for me, it started when I was very young. I was about 5 years old when I got to kindergarten, and they noticed that my teeth went in all different directions. And so they put this little girl in a full set of braces. Do you have braces? No, that's nice. You got really annoyingly wonderful teeth and you never... So but I wasn't in braces for a year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or 8 years. My entire childhood, I had a full set of silver braces. And for 2 of those years when I was young, they put a thing in my mouth that kept me from talking because they didn't want my tongue to move. And so now nobody wants to be my friend because they can't understand a single word I'm saying. And during those 2 years, if you do that to a little girl, little girls just want to be pretty. So now I'm not pretty. I can't smile because I look terrible. And no one can understand me. And I got this wave of, if you and when you can communicate, use it for good. Because I watch people just jibber jabber. They're gossiping. They're talking about boyfriends and this and not saying very much of anything. And so very early on, I developed this concept of don't waste words. I teach to not use filler words. None of the so, well, I'm trying, like, I don't know. Those have no value, and you're going to hear them and people speak all the time. And they're not really saying anything, which is unfortunate. And so then I had a little bit of a tragic thing happen. My dad slipped. He was an engineer and he built printing presses, and he cut off the front of his hand in an accident. And my beautiful father spent 3 years in the hospital from the time I was 12 to about 15. And that did a lot of things. It made me realize that you got to figure out life, because nobody hands you anything. When you're hungry and you're like, wait a second, how come I see other people on TV living a glamorous life? Why am I living in such a tiny house and in this environment and always struggling? And I made a decision. The decision was that I'm special and I deserve more out of this life. That was a powerful decision. I said that a lot to myself. And I highly advise all of you to say it to yourself and believe it, because when you believe you're special, you take special actions. You do special things to make your life special. When you walk around going, I'm just not enough, everyone puts me down, I've been bullied, that's fine. If you believe what bullies who don't care about you say, that's your choice. I would walk around going, I'm special. And I'd look in the mirror going, not only am I special, but I love you. When I made a decision to talk about being special. So one of the things that you have to do in life to be successful is to believe that you are, long before other people do. My dad's in the hospital, and my mother turns to me. At that point, I had broken my nose. I'd been in a really bad accident, baseball accident. My nose got broken, and I grew up just looking at a very odd-looking face. And so between that and the braces and my dad in the hospital, but I was smart, and I was top of my class. I skipped a year of high school. And my mother turned to me one day in the hospital room and said, I'm really sorry to inform you, we have no money for college. There's no scholarship available, blah, 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 blah. But there is this beauty pageant that's happening called the Miss Teenage America pageant. She looks at my face and said, yeah, that's not going to work for us. Okay. At that moment, my life changed because my dad's doctor overheard our conversation. He turned to my mother and said, you know what? I would like to fix your daughter's nose for free. That would be okay? I was like, okay. The crazy thing is, I woke up a couple of days later and my face looked completely different. I had a cute little nose. My eyes looked bigger. My braces came off about that same time. And I said to myself, why don't you enter this beauty contest? I'm 15 and a half. And I knew nothing about beauty pageants. That was the farthest thing from my mind. But I knew that they offered a scholarship to college. So I got a hand-me-down bridesmaid's dress. I read all the rules. I showed up. There were 500 girls when I walked in with my dad. I was holding his good hand. And I said to myself, one of these girls is going to be on TV with Bob Hope. Bob Hope was like the Adam Sandler of our time. And it's going to be me. And I said that. And I sat down and I did the first part of the eliminations. And it was a 3-week process. We got to the very end and I won. And now I am just turned 16 and I go off to Oklahoma. They're filming a huge television show with this major star and I'm representing New York State. And I didn't win that, but I did win a scholarship to college. And that was the beginning of me going, if you ask the universe for it and you put the work in, what can you get? I felt like the world had opened up to me. And I said, you know what? I went to college to be a lawyer because that's what my guidance counselor in high school told me. She said, you're smart. You can be a doctor or a lawyer. You don't like blood. Boom, you're a lawyer. She never told me there were jobs like advertising or anything. I didn't know any. I came from a very small blue collar family. I didn't even know what a CEO was until I was in my 30s because CEOs were not something that lived in my town. And I was like, I don't know what those letters mean. Oh, and now, but the kids now, because you have Instagram, you know a lot of different things. In fact, Mychal, I'll embarrass myself, but when I got one of my first jobs out of college, I worked for a billionaire couple, and we're in their car one day, and I'm young. I'm a young, naive I skipped a year of college, so I graduated with 2 degrees in 3 years. So I'm smart. Wow. I'm not street smart, but I'm book smart. And she turns to me one day and she said, you need to get Louis Vuitton out of the trunk. And I said, who's in the trunk? And she looked at me and she said, oh, you'll learn. And I'm like, oh, you bet I will. I'm here to learn. You know, where I grew up, we covered the couch in plastic and we never saw the original couch. I had one living room set of furniture that my mom got at a hand-me-down store and that was all we ever had. And by the way, love my parents. This is the thing that you and I both share, because I saw your dad just come in and give you this big hug. The luckiest kids in the world are the ones who have 2 parents who love them. Mm-hmm. And why do I say that? Because with 2 people, there's a yin and a yang. There's like this good energy and crazy energy and masculine energy and feminine energy. I love the concept of two because then you can play them against each other. When you have a single parent, you grow up different. You grow up with a different energy and you find yourself looking for certain things in life, whether you don't have a mom or you don't have a dad. And then my ex-husband was adopted. He has a different sense of family. But when you've got people who love you when you're little, I think you have an advantage. I think if you miss that, you might spend the rest of your life looking for that. My beautiful husband now lost his dad when he was 2. His dad was in a bad car accident. Mom married the dad's brother, his uncle, and he was killed in a car crash by the time he was 15. So when I look at my husband, who is a world champion bodybuilder, I think he is not trying to prove something, but he's being that overly macho thing because he wants that male energy in his life. Not a good or a bad thing. And he's very loved. Luckily, he had a beautiful mom who loved and cherished him. I think that makes a big difference. So anyway, I go to college and I realize I don't want to be a lawyer. Not really fun. I want to be an actress. And that's the goofiest thing I could ask for. I saw all these actors on TV and thought, why can't I have that life? Why can't I travel around and be glamorous and wear gowns? And so I literally called my folks one day and I said, I love you both very much and thank you for helping me get through school, but I'm going to be an actress. And the funny thing about that is I'd auditioned for plays in high school. Did you ever do plays in high school?
No, me, I didn't do plays, no.
Okay. I loved the idea of doing theater. I just wasn't apparently very good. I couldn't sing, and we did a lot of musicals. And so I was always like the person way back there in the corner, like the chorus. And I never got any parts at all. And I thought, so my senior year of college, I now have this idea that I just want to be an actress. So I auditioned for Shakespeare, with the biggest play my school is doing, called As You Like It. And the lead character, she's on stage for 2.5 hours. She's an amazing, best character for a woman that Shakespeare ever wrote. And I read this and I'm drooling and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to audition. It won't make any difference, but what the hell? And I do. And this is a funny thing in life. Sometimes when your dreams meet your reality. So I go to the call board to see who got where my name is. And I look at the chorus and the little townspeople and then my name's not there. And I stood there, Mychal, and I looked and I said, oh my God, I'm not very good. I couldn't even get in college, like the little teeny part. And then I said, who got the big role? And I look at the very top of the board next to the character named Rosalind, and holy schmoly, there's my name. And I looked at it and thought, did somebody make a mistake? That's me. I get to do that? And it was a very interesting moment. I went to my college professor, who was the director, and I said, can you help me understand something here? And this doesn't make sense. First of all, you know that I don't really know Shakespeare that well. And he sat me down and he said, look, he said, you're my ideal Rosalind. He said, I've had you in acting class. I see who you are. I get you are amazing. But he said all these things about me that no one had ever said, but that I felt. And the crazy thing about this story is the only man to really see who I was, Professor David Richmond, was 100% legally blind. He was a blind theater director. He couldn't see anything about me. And I did the play. It was a raging success. He was right. I was great. I left college and I got the lead in the very first movie I auditioned for, called Splatter University. It's a horror film in the 80s. And I've done Broadway and soap operas and movies and television and been on 24 and some of your other favorite TV shows. And I never got to the level of Julia Roberts or Sandra Bullock, which is what I would have loved to have done. But I worked enough. And then one day I walked into an audition and again, my life changed. So if you're not open to your life going with the flow, you're never going to experience the best things life has to offer. Because I promise you, as you're going down the life, you're liable to look over there and see this person's eyes and they become the mother or father of your kids. Like, it literally happens that fast. And if you're not looking for things, you will miss them. And so I walk into an audition, there's a pen on the desk. And it said, sell the camera this pen. I don't like to sell things. I don't have money. I'm never been in retail. I'm like, this is not for me. And then I heard my dad's voice. My dad had already passed away, but I could hear him a lot. We had lots of conversations. And it just said, do something different. Just do you. And I can remember thinking, okay, hey guys, I was 15 and a half when I graduated high school. I skipped a year. I was smart enough to skip a year, but I was completely nervous and insecure. My mother used to write me notes with this pen like this every day. And I'd race to the mailbox and I felt so comfortable. And I realized a pen like this can reach out and touch somebody's heart. I put it down and thought, okay. With that, the guy walks from behind the camera. His name is Body by Jake, grabs my face. You're going to make me a lot of money. I'm like, I'm sorry, what are you talking about? He had just started this Cable had just come out. He started a 24-hour network all about health and fitness, and he wanted someone to pitch health and fitness products. Mychal, I have never gotten a script. I didn't even understand how I knew what to do. They would put a product in front of me. I would look at the camera and I would sell it and it would work. I did 1,500 different products over 5 years, made a nice amount of money. And at that time, we ended up selling that network to Fox TV for $500 million in 1993. And then infomercials became a thing. They weren't a thing before the 90s. And they needed a girl to host a show. And they called me and I did it. I ended up doing 197 of them and becoming one of the most successful women to host infomercials in the world. So that's how it all started.
My favorite thing that you said is how you were able to change your mindset to allow you to grow. What is some ways that you were able to have the mindset shifts to the point of you being able to take advantage of opportunities that were coming to you?
So one of the things I'd found, and this is now 40 some odd years ago, Tony Robbins wrote a really interesting book. He wrote 2 books called Awaken the Giant and whatever the other, and they're really big books. And I opened one of them, and I highly suggest doing that. I don't know how he managed to write them. They're phenomenal. And in the books are exercises. And he really asks you to begin to dream about what you want to do, write down why the obstacles are. And I have this whole book that I'd written. I still have it after all these years of things that I wanted, why I wanted them, what I was willing to do to get them. And I just organized my priorities and then just got out of my own way. And the other thing too is because I didn't have a lot of friends growing up, I never had a lot of friends. My mentors were mostly in my head. Whether it was Tony, I couldn't afford to go to his events, or I'm watching Jane Fonda or other actresses, I'm studying. And there was no YouTube then. If there was a YouTube back then, I certainly would not have gone to college because everything I wanted to know, you can learn. I went to college because I was the first one in my family who could. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on an education that was a joke. It was a freaking joke. I became a poli-sci major for what I don't know. I studied history. And the irony of that story is I worked so hard to get to college. My parents were so proud. I have twins. They're both smart. My son is a little bit more of an A academic student. My daughter is a little bit more of a B academic student. And the crazy thing is that my daughter started working at 12 online, doing drop shipping. At 17, came to me and said, let's start a company because she was doing COVID in my house. And her brother was like beaten down on his head by my ex-husband. My ex-husband's a full ride Notre Dame scholarship football player. And so, you're going to college, son, or you're not. And then he said the same thing to my daughter. I think he said something like, you're going to become a crack whore if you don't go to college. Okay, nice to say to a little girl, but whatever. And she looked at me and said, Mom, I just want to work. I don't think I want to go to college. And she made her first $1 million on her own at 18. Yeah? Yeah. Do you need me? That would be that daughter. We're in business together. So no, that's cool. Leave that in, guys. That's one of the things about leaving it in. One of the reasons that she is successful as she is I needed a best friend. So when she was 8 years old, I would take her out of school and we would go to my speaking engagements. We'd go to Europe together because I was selling products in London and I was in Paris and I was selling things all over. And I just drag her with me. And she learned a lot. In fact, she saved my company $48,000. We were working on some product configuration and we couldn't figure it out. This little girl walks in and she said, what are you doing, Mom? I'm like, Blah, blah. And she said, why don't you just take this piece out? And that piece costs 55 cents. And when you sell 75,000 of them, that made, none of my adults could figure that out, but she got it. And when she said, let's be in business, it was a little bit of a leap of faith, but COVID had happened. And we started this coaching company. Mychal, we started with 25 people in a room. I was doing a live event. It got canceled. I said, let's do this whole new Zoom thing. And so your generation won't really ever remember a time before Zoom, but we couldn't do this growing up. We had a telephone and we couldn't see each other. And that was the best that you could do, or you went to a live event. When Zoom happened, and now this is about 6 years ago, life changed. We can now talk to people around the world. We can have virtual meetings. We can do a lot of stuff and not have to worry about flying somewhere and having to sit down at a meal and all the expense of this. We can just meet and get business done. And we took advantage of that. So we had 25 people. The very first night I opened my training and we did a webinar and I sold a product for $1,000 and a whole month training of what I do. Teaching people how to pitch and communicate. And We did it through an online platform. Back then it was ClickFunnels. Now I use a program called GSD, called Get Shit Done. It's a crazy platform. But I only had $0 in that account. I used to build funnels. I used to build things and didn't launch anything. So after this first night, we did our event. I talked, you met me in one of these events on a Sunday. And the next morning I looked and it said 25K in the account. And I called my daughter and I said, what does the K stand for? She said, what do you mean? I said, McKenna, it says there's 25K in the account. There was nothing there yesterday. She said, Mom, you sold everybody in the room. That's 25,000 dollars you made last night. I'm like, huh? Like, I had no idea this was even possible. And now do the math. I did only 25 people for 4 weeks. You know what I had? I had $100,000, 6-figure business in the first month that we were in business. 9 months later, we hit $1 million. We are now 100,000 students after 6 years. And where I used to have 25, last Sunday I had 2,500 in the same class. So I've definitely gone down what it means to be part of this digital revolution. If you open Instagram, you'll see every day somebody bragging about how much money they're making. A lot of that is real because you can reach so many people so quickly. And that's fascinating. So I'm enjoying this time of my life. I still like making movies. I started a movie last year. I would love to go do a new TV series, but at the moment, I got a book coming out. Wait, where's my book? Oh, wait. Several years of working. It's finally coming out and it's here. Pitch Secrets A to Z. How to master your language so that you can increase your influence, impact, and income.
Honestly, what I'm thinking is that your skills from being an actress relates to what you're doing now. So how were you able to take those skills and turn it in being great at pitching?
So let me share something with you. I just did my first TEDx and I did my second TEDx. Why am I good on stage? Because I'm an actress. And so I teach, not only do I teach pitching, but the next thing I teach is one-to-many speaker sales training. And what does that mean? When you are pitching and you're selling somebody, we can do this one-on-one, and I can do one-on-one all day long and make X amount of dollars. But if I put 10 people in a room, I can 10X my income. I put 100 people in a room, do the same conversation, I can 100X it. Whoa, really? Yes. So I highly advise you to stop selling to one. That's why retail stores and everything is such a bad way to make money. It's a good way for visibility, but you can't make a lot of cash that way. And so I got on stage, I don't know if Grant Cardone, but in 2019, I was a speaker on his 10X stage. There were 10,000 people at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. And I closed so much business, I didn't have to advertise for an entire year from one speech. So in my speaker training, which I do, it's called Next Level Speaker Training. It's very different from other people. I don't come to it as a business person. Yeah, I am a business person, but I come to it as an actress and a personal development guru. And so I've taken the things that Tony taught me 40 years ago, combined with all that self-development. I've done a lot of personal development. I highly recommend that there's a lot of different people that you get your butt into a seminar room somewhere. For me, it was life-changing. I was 30 years old and I found this training. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was an emotional healing training where you got to look at who you are, what your values are, how you dealt with your parents, how you dealt with bullies in your life. And it was a beautiful training. And I did it. It was 3 weeks long. And it just shattered a lot of the bullshit that was in my head, because you cannot write a beautiful future if your past is where you're sitting. If you keep going back to, oh, I wasn't good in second grade and I used to get Fs and public speaking was hard. You're going to take all the voices from your past and literally push them back there and begin to put blinders on and write this future for yourself. We all have the ability to do that. It's a great concept. And so please, if you're listening to this, whether it's my rooms that you get into, I do live trainings now, but there's a lot of people. Find the one that resonates with you. And then after you do that one, find another one, because there's a lot of unique aspects to you as a personality, you and the things that you want, and get educated. The first thing you want to get educated is how your brain talks to you. And so the next part, though, is being on stage as an actor. And I do this with all my speakers. We practice vocal technique. And then we go, I can make my voice. How low can I make my voice? She sells seashells by the seashore. All of those little actor things are really handy if you're a speaker, are really handy if you're pitching. I took a training over a course of a year. There was a crazy acting teacher who's passed away called Sanford Meisner. And the Meisner technique taught you how to listen. I'm sorry, what? So for a year, I'm in a training to learn to listen. People say this now, but you listen differently than everyone else. I know, I was trained to listen. I'm trained to, and you're in class with me. I can hear your ums. I can hear your, all of the little things that you don't think. It's because, and that's probably the best skill that I outshine everybody, because none of you guys out there have been trained to listen. It's an acting thing, because in acting, you're given a script and it's just words. And the words could be, pass the salt. Really, I love salt. That's the script. But Mychal, what if I told you it was a love story? And I'm like, pass the salt. Oh, I love salt. Same words, very different intention. Or you were the mom and a kid. Pass the salt. Yeah, Mom, thanks. I love the salt. Again, same words, but very different energies. And that's something that you learn in acting class and you don't learn anywhere else. That words aren't the most important. So when people come to me with a script, I wrote out my pitch. I'm like, don't. Nobody cares what you say. They care how you make them feel. So if you're pitching and you're selling somebody and they feel sold, they back up and they go, I don't want this. But if you realize that whatever it is that you've got is a solution to somebody else's problem, you help uncover their problem, they want your solution. And pitching is so much more fun than sales.
I just have a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
Yeah. But before I do ask you the question, I do want to read my children's book that me and my dad co-wrote together called I Am a CEO, Realistic CEO.
Now, why do you use the word realistic?
For me, since I use realistic because my high school business teacher told me that was unrealistic for me to become a CEO. So I want.
So this is the kind of bullshit they planted in your head.
Yeah, and I wanted to be a CEO since I was 10 years old. So we call it realistic CEO. So
I love it.
Kids know when they read the book that their dreams are realistic.
Just to share with you, and at some point you should interview McKenna, because she was told the same thing. She was told that she's not going to college, she was throwing her life away. She has a TEDx talk. I don't know if you know this. We both do. Her talk is called Every Company Needs a Kid, and it's brilliant. And mine, if you go there and go to YouTube and type in Forbes Riley and TEDx, you'll see mine, one about pitching, and my second one is about the difference of black and white. I would love you and your dad to listen to my second TEDx, because it's a very important story about a little boy that I raised who's no longer with us, because some kid was taught that it was okay to kill somebody to get into a gang. And so my message is, if hate can be taught, can love? God, let me see your book.
Before I'm listening in, just so you know, I watch.
This is right. Dad left the room. Oh,
this is great. I'm loving it. No, so I watched your first TEDx and your daughter's TEDx. I thought they both were great. Like, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. I don't want to be fanboying, but I appreciate. No, and he's super humble, so he won't even talk about what he really does. So far, he's impacted about his book and my book. In the last 2 years, we've given away about 16,000 copies to kids in the community. Like, when he walks in, these kids go from not believing they could do stuff to like, just, you can just see it, because he's like the big brother that they don't have, and he's doing incredible work. But yeah.
And by the way, Mychal, it's okay to brag on him. My junior Mychal, do me a small favor. Don't be small or shy about what you've gotten. I've generated over $2.5 billion in sales. And I did that when someone had called me a while ago and had said, Forbes, that one of your shows hit $1 billion in sales. I'm like, I have a commission on this. Let me add this up. And I started to add up all the days. I did $1 million days on home shopping. And when I added it all up and it came out to be $2.5 billion, I'm like, I need to tell people this. Because if you just look, you would not know that's what I've achieved. So if you can back it up, you don't lead with who you are, because in today's day and age, we don't have time for shy. We don't have time for small words. If we don't get who you are, and by the way, McKenna will walk in and say, I run a multi-million-dollar company. She said, I look young because I am young. And you heard it. She said, I made my first million at 18. People are not going to believe that, nor would they ever imagine that. There is nothing more interesting, and I'm excited for her and for you. And you should take this all with a grain of salt, because you will be discounted. You're first going to be discounted because of your age. What could you possibly know? I'm a board member. I'm a 60-year-old man who's been in banking forever, you young whippersnapper. I make more money than you do. And she, really? And so enjoy the fact that you're going to be underestimated. Don't get bitter about it, but stand there in your greatness and go, this is what I've achieved, dude. And by the way, they either get to take you seriously or not. Don't get mad at it. And I really had to teach my daughter this, because the second thing she's got going against her is she's a she. She's a beautiful girl with long blonde hair who looks like she likes to dress bohemian, and as much money as she made, she likes to stay in hostels and go surfing. Nobody know. And it's fascinating because then her friends will go, you're just a scammer online. So this little girl's got to take all this. You're going to take that same thing. Ethnically, how could you be a CEO? Dude, how could you be president of the United States? One of the things that I say in my talk, the one that you haven't seen yet, is I told Dexter, I got him when he was 8 years old, that he could be anything and do anything. And he didn't believe me. I know he didn't, because no one in his neighborhood supported what I was saying. And I remember my ex-father-in-law was vice president of the Teamsters, and we're in Los Angeles, and we get up to where his house is on top of a hill. And Dex is about 11 years old, and he looks at me and said, this is where white people live. I said, Dexter, this is where green people live. Chinese, Indian, African, American, they're all different colors. Nothing they have in common. They're rich. So your people, around you told you something that's a lie. And then I said something like, you could be president of the United States. And I was wrong, because Dexter never got to see Obama take office.
Wow.
And then when it happened, my mind was like, man, why couldn't he see this, that I was right, that it doesn't matter. The only thing in this life I believe that matters is how you judge you. And if you're willing to buy into the bullshit, if you're some teacher going, you can't do that, #watch me.
That's it. That's what he did.
Yeah.
So let me get back out.
Yeah, really, what you just said is the main reason why I do what I do. When I go into these schools, a lot of the times, like at least in the past year, a lot of the kids look like me, and I go to communities where kids that look like me, and they, like you said, like the same thing that with Dexter, a lot of these kids have the same exact thought processes. So when I'm going in and they're seeing a successful young kid they're similar in age as them, now they're like, oh, he can do it. I can definitely do it as well. And by the end, I have a whole bunch of kids coming up to me asking me questions on how they can get started, how they can do this and that. And the biggest thing is going in, seeing them have no confidence at all, just thinking I'm just another person going in to have a whole speech that they don't care about, to then seeing the big impact in just 30 minutes, hour, however long I'm with them. So I thank you for sharing that story, because I know exactly how that feels when I'm going into these schools. I have the same exact experiences with these kids, which is why.
Do you know about the Pied Piper?
No.
Okay, Dad, write that down. Make him read the Pied Piper. The Pied Piper is, you can become that for people. A very unauspicious character who just plays this music and everyone just follows him because of how he stands up in life. And you can be that for so many people. And yeah, and I think one of the cool things, about meeting me, I love that you up-leveled your pitching. I love that you invested in yourself to move forward and understand a skill that I think is going to serve you really well, like you said. So the inside of your book.
The book is called I Am a CEO, Realistic CEO. Ooh. In the sunny town of Jeanville, there lived a boy named Tony with a big, bright dream. One day in Mrs. Parker's class, Tony announced, when I grow up, I'm going to be a CEO, a Chief Executive Officer.
That's funny. Like I said, I didn't even know what that was till I was 30 years old.
Mrs. Parker smiled and said, that's a big dream, Tony. Maybe think of something a bit more realistic.
You know what's so funny, Michael? I think McKenna uses that same word. Her tech teacher told her to be more realistic.
Tony's eyes sparkled. But it is realistic. I have a plan, he said with confidence. I will read lots of books and learn about business, Tony explained, holding up a book titled Lemonade Book. And I will practice by starting my own lemonade stand. It will be the best in town, said Tony, while sharing a drawing of his stand. Mrs. Parker was surprised. That's quite a start, Tony. But being a CEO is more than lemonade. I know, Tony nodded. I will meet and interview successful CEOs, business owners, founders, presidents, executives, and community leaders. I will learn from them. I'll learn to make good decisions and solve problems. Tony continued, I also learn to be kind and help others, just like a good leader. Mrs. Parker smiled. Tony, I think you just might be a CEO one day.
I love it.
With a beaming smile, Tony said, I'll do the LBW and I'll practice the 5 types of work. They are work hard, work smart, work right, network, and teamwork. You'll see, Mrs. Parker. Years later, Mrs. Parker read a newspaper with a familiar face on the cover. Tony, CEO of More Than Lemonade Inc. She remembered the little boy with the big dream. He did it, she whispered with pride. Back at Dreamville, Tony, now a CEO, smiled. Dreams do come true with the 5 types of work, along with self-belief in action, the LBW,
Wait,
the long, lonely, boring work.
stay right there. Don't close that page. Close it. Out that Tony and I have the same trophy. Tony and I have the same trophy. Look at his trophy on his mantle. Yep, there you go. I know, right? Just a little noticing thing there.
And in his office, the drawing of his lemonade stand hung on the wall. Remember, no dream is too big if you believe in yourself, are willing to work for it. Create a simple, realistic plan and follow it through to execution.
I'll tell you one thing that you should do. You should relaunch the book, a 2nd edition, and her name should be Antonia. Because little girls can be CEOs too.
Yeah, we have a multiverse of books. This isn't our only book. We have books with different characters inside them. I would love to make sure you get a copy of all the books as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And then everyone has a special dream that can change the world. What's yours?
I love that. That is a
That's
powerful
book.
message. So you asked me a question, how did it spark in me? How did it spark in you?
So I've always seen my dad inside of business, and I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to be around business people. You know, I remember when I was 10 years old is when I shifted from being an entrepreneur to being a CEO, because my dad was working on a course with his mentor, John Sortino, the Vermont teddy bear guy. And when he was in the break, he shared about the C-suite to me and my brothers. And when he got to CEO, that's when I was like, I always wanted to do that, because I've always enjoyed helping people, and I've always liked being a leader. And I get to run my own business. So that was like a perfect opportunity for me to say, that's the career I want. And I've always known that I could do it because, like I said, I've seen people run businesses. I've seen people inside of CEO positions. So I knew it's realistic for me to be able to have that mission and achieve that dream of mine.
So you have the two of the elements that I think give people a leg up. So if you're somebody who was surrounded by parents who loved you and thought that you could do things, if you were around business people and could see the future, I did not know what a CEO was at all because there were none in my world. But my question is, if you don't have that, if you grew up with a self-doubt and belief that you can't do things, one of the things and the reason people come to me is I have an ability to shift that. So if you don't, if you look at, and Mychal go, it must be easy for him, he's got a great dad and he saw all that. No, you just need to have your values realigned. And you can look at a coin and there's 2 sides to every single coin. You can say or the glass is half full or half empty. Life is amazing and wonderful and anybody can be anything. And I ascribe to that. I've watched it happen. Or you can go to the other side and go, woe is me.
Yeah, for me personally, sometimes I've definitely struggled with self-doubt and thinking that I wasn't good enough, even though I've had a support system. So What I think a support system is super important though, because when you do have the self-doubt, and you have somebody that you can lean on, and you have a group of people that are able to help guide you and keep you going to the right direction, it definitely is a lot easier for me because, like I said, I've definitely had some times where I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think that my ability to go speak in front of these students, in front of these kids will actually make a big impact in their lives. But when I kept doing it and I realized that what I'm doing is a lot bigger than myself, and that's really the biggest thing that keeps me going is that I know my story is going to impact a lot more people than what I even anticipated to start off with.
Yeah, I think the only thing that anyone needs to be successful is a vision. I listened to Arnold Schwarzenegger the other day, and I highly recommend listening to motivational speakers because they've all figured it out. They all usually came from something tragic or not good. You listen to Les Brown and certainly Tony, he came from a single parent too, had hard times and was hungry. And that's a really good energy to drive you forward. But Arnold said something, it just resonated so loud. It's that he said he grew up in Austria. He knew he was special and that he didn't want to be a farmer, didn't want to work in a factory, and didn't want to live in Austria. He saw a documentary about America, and you set your sights on something. And can it be unrealistic? Absolutely. That's the whole joy of this. And so then he saw a bodybuilder in a magazine, and he said, that's what I want. I want to be Mr. Olympia. He was a scrawny kid at the time. And one of the things that had just settled with me is it's what you do in the dark when no one's watching that people applaud you for in public. And so it is how you overcome your self-doubt. It is the time you spend in the gym. It is the time you spend reading the books and writing the books and doing things that are not sexy. Being an entrepreneur and a CEO, it's a lot of work involved. And that's the big continuum you got to set up to do that. And he said the people would ask him, why is he smiling in the gym? He would spend 5 to 6 hours a day in the gym. We're not doing that. And he said, because every rep, every weight that I pushed, every sit-up, every push-up got me one step closer to the Olympia title. And so if you have a goal, take the steps, whatever they are. So right now it is you going to high schools, maybe thinking I'm not making a lot of a difference. I promise you, over a period of time, certainly as these kids that you're reading to become their own businessmen and they remember that you were the catalyst that helped them, because you're so beautifully young now that you got a lot of time to lay the foundation and plant the seeds of your success. And as you said in the 4th step of your work thing, your net worth is in fact your net worth.
Yeah, so I actually want to ask you a couple questions from the book. So Tony talks about the 5 types of work. So what I'm gonna do is list all types of work, and I want you to explain what each type of work means to you.
Okay?
The first type of work is working hard. So what does working hard mean to you?
Don't do it. Work smart. Working hard. Working hard means taking away the distractions, and everything is a distraction. Your family pet, mom calling for dinner, the television, certainly Instagram and Facebook, you've got to limit your time on those, but you also need to allow yourself some time to play. So working hard is setting out plans, getting up extra early. I don't know if your world knows, but I recently entered a bodybuilding competition and got a medal. Not 1, not 2, but I have 3 medals now. And I never wanted to do that. I'm in the National Fitness Hall of Fame. Wow. Oh my God. How did I do that? Because I've sold more fitness products, not that I was ever really fit. And I knew that I was never that fit. I fell in love with the bodybuilder. I've watched him for 8 years. He's world champion. He competes. And guys, if you're Instagramming, his name is Joshua, S-E-L-F. Worth looking at. It. Fascinating. He also overcame a motorcycle accident, lost everything, and built it all back. We were in a car accident in Iceland 2 years ago. And after the accident, I was feeling pretty broken. I'd torn my shoulder and I was just not really happy. My face went through the glass onto the street. And Joshua said to me, when we get home, he said, there's a bodybuilding competition in our hometown for the first time called the St. Pete Pro. And I, with my PTSD, said, good for you. Good for them. He said, there's a category for women over 60. And I am. And I said, good for them. I'm not doing that. And then I heard a voice. Remember that voice I said about the pen? I heard a voice that said, go for it. And if you've ever watched the movie with Kevin Costner called Field of Dreams, he heard voices too. If you build it, they will come. And I kept hearing the word go for it. I'm like, go for what? I just had my body fat tested. I'm 33%. I'm 160 something pounds. Go for, what are we talking about here? By the way, the competition is in 99 days. That's stupid. Just say that you could do that. But I did. I got on my mastermind in front of about 300 people and I said, guys, I just survived this accident. I just got an MRI, told me I need surgery. And I looked at my surgeon and I said, I'll have surgery, but I'm going to do it after I win this competition. He said, excuse me? I said, I think I have PTSD. I don't really know. I'm going to go to the gym and and I got the little bathing suit, the little bikini bathing suit didn't fit on one of my legs. And I worked hard. I got up at 5 a.m. every morning. I spent 2 hours in the gym. I used Joshua's muscle building program. I lifted a lot of weights. I only ate carnivore and I didn't deviate. No wine, no bread, no cookies, no pasta for 99. And I made a movie about it for 99 days. I lost 35 pounds, 15% body fat. And if I can find the photo, I'm happy to have your dad go, ooh, because I'm really proud. Because if you asked me in a sane moment, I should not have been able to do that. And everybody that I knew, including my business partner, my daughter, was like, you're crazy. Don't do this. And I'm like, I have to. And I did, and I won. Challenge yourself and work hard. Next question. Let me turn it. Hang on a second. Can I share my screen? Give me, I'm going to send request to share. Because I do have the picture, and I will say that I'm very proud of this picture. Let's see what I got right here. So if you guys at home can play along, the one on the left is me. There, you see me? That was me at 160. That was me right before I got ready to compete. And then I ultimately got down to this and looked like that at the end of the day, 35
That's
pounds
incredible.
later. Yeah, I think so. I think it is. Thank you very much. Not only that, but if I can find it here, I have a medal. Oh, there you go. Wait, check it out. I did it. And that's the craziest thing. I took my little 64-year-old body and I walked on a stage and I got a medal. And it's like, and so you want to hear something funny? I went to, where do you guys live?
In Springfield, Massachusetts, birthplace of basketball.
I love that. So we're down here in Tampa, Florida, and the guy who just won the Olympia owns a gym down here, Derek Lunsford, and he had a big thing. So you remember Flex Lewis? Who's the other really famous? Who's one of the best bodybuilders of all times? His name is, you got Jay Cutler, you've got Red, and come to me. Anyway, so Flex Lewis has won Mr. Olympia, and I met him once a long time ago. I walk up to him, and he's like, hey, he's got this great Irish accent. I followed your bodybuilding competition. You did it. I was like, oh my God, really? You noticed what I was doing? And so that was a big, hairy, scary, outrageous dream that everybody told me I couldn't do. #watch me. And by the way, I've always had that crazy philosophy that if I'm not smarter than you, I can outwork you.
That's it.
I don't know about that one. All right, so what's the next one? Work smart. Yes?
The next one, work smart.
Yeah, you know what? Do your research. Figure out how not. My dad believed in the work hard, and he died at 70 working really hard because the work smart thing never. You guys, you can leverage. You want to make money nowadays, and you should. Get online and figure out how to do an Airbnb, how to do drop shipping, how to do TikTok shop. Stop saying you're broke because you ain't. What's broke is your mentality.
The next type of work is work right.
When everyone else is going left, I always go right. Again, surround yourself with people who are doing what you love. Ask the right questions. There's a great guy out right now. He hopefully will get an interview called School of Hard Knocks. Have you seen him? Yeah. He literally walks up to billionaires, puts a microphone in their face and says, tell me about what you're doing. And he's making some serious money, some phenomenal connections. Nobody gave him permission to do that. You want to do what's right. Say, look, this is my dream. This is my goal. You don't believe in me. I love you, but move out of the way.
The next type of work is network.
I've got friends and family, people who are family, that I've been friends with since I was a little girl. I collect people and I don't let them go. The first two guys I ever dated in my life, one when I was 21 and one when I was 25, loved them both, didn't end up marrying them. They both came to my wedding. Now, why is that? Because when you're in my world and I loved you, you don't get to lead. How many people have you ever loved in your entire life? So building this network. And the other thing I learned from a very important political fundraiser, reach out to people when you don't need them so that they're there when you do. Don't always be the one to pick up the phone going, hey, can I get this? I need this. I want money. No, hey, happy birthday. Saw you on Facebook. Congratulate. Be there just to be there. And I'll tell you, there's a strategy to building a network that's genuine and it's important because when you need help, it's nice to have people to reach out to.
The fifth and final type of work is teamwork.
It's the dream work. It's what it does. You cannot do everything all by yourself. I somehow mistakenly thought I could, which is why it's taken me so long to get really famous. That is my goal. When you look at Mel Robbins or Oprah, I did a lot of the same kind of work, but I played a little bit smaller. And we all have our paths in life. walk your path. And you can look at other people for inspiration, but don't judge, because nobody's as happy as they look on Instagram, I promise you.
I had just now have a couple more questions for you.
Good.
So another thing Tony talks about inside the Realistic CEO book is the LBW, the long, lonely, born work. Can you tell us about the LBW that you had to do to get to where you are today?
Don't label it boring. I think that's one of the things. Let me tell you something. I read 6 or 7 books that I've written. Books don't write themselves. I can't tell you how much time we've spent agonizing over all of this. I don't think it's boring, though. I was up late last night. My husband came home. He's like, hey, come on, let's go watch a movie. And I'm like, I'm categorizing movies in my hard drive of my videos. He's like, you gotta stop. It's midnight. I'm like, I know. But see, when you're passionate, there is no time limit. But you got to do that. But also, I think school might be boring too, but you got to go get an education. My thing about that is how you pre-frame what you do is how you enjoy it. And I will share that my work ethic has translated to my son. My kids both get mad at me because I can sit at the dinner table and talk work all the time. I love talking strategy and marketing and numbers. And they're like, Mom, we just want to eat. We just want to, I'm like, oh. And my son turned to me not long ago, and he's in college. And he said, Mom, I just want to call to thank you. I said, what do you want to thank me for? He said, well, you did 2 things for me that I don't know many other parents did. One, you didn't punish us. I'm like, I think I did. He said, no. He said, you didn't. You made us punish ourselves. I said, why? Because that was my philosophy as a mom. I was a bit of an older mom, so I had time to think about this. When you're a young mom in your 20s, I would have sucked as a mom in my 20s. I would have not really cared about my kids. I was very self-centered. But at 40, you're like, I can do some experimenting. And so when they would do something wrong, in the old days, you might spank a kid, you might take something away, you might ground them. And I was always like, dude, you did something wrong. I don't want to be the bad guy. I'm going to take if my mom took my phone away. No, I didn't. You did something wrong. So what I did was I flipped that switch and I said, look, you did this wrong. You know it's wrong. We sneaking out of the house and playing with your friends when I said it's dinner time. Not right. Okay. Yes. What's the consequence for that? So what do you mean? What's the consequence? And he was like, I could give you my cell phone for the weekend. Great. And that's literally how we did it. So one of the things he thanked me for, he said, Mom, I don't need to go out and go crazy. I know what's right and wrong. And like, I know, I taught you to think for yourself and understand that punishment is just consequences. When you do something in life, whatever it is, there are consequences. And if you act as if there are none, you're going to lose. That's how people end up in jail. They're like, I'm going to do this. No one's going to catch me. And they do. They probably were going to all along. You just didn't figure that out. And then the second thing is, it's funny. He said, I could go out and drink and play with the boys and do whatever we're doing. He said, I just want to work. He owns a company. He said, and I like working. He said, I find great joy in doing that. So I'm like, I know. The difference is, if you grow up around people who work for other people, that's work. You're building somebody else's dream. You're doing the 9 to 5. You can't wait for Friday night to go drink and go, man, that work week. If you wake up on Monday and go, oh God, you're doing the wrong thing. I wake up on Monday going, it's time to go. So how you frame that is important.
Last question for you is, what's one fun fact about yourself that nobody really knows?
I love to roller skate. I have been roller skating since I was a kid. We did not have an ice skating rink near us. And I grew up with a little gymnasium, and we used to teach other kids how to skate at some point. We do a show every year. I got to roller skate on Broadway in a play with Christopher Reeve, the original guy who played Superman. So I did that. And just yesterday, I raised both of my kids on roller skates. We have a rink near us, and I've been taking them since they were like 4 years old. And they're the cutest little twins who couldn't skate at all. And now they both have their own skates, and we can do tricks and have fun. But we used to do that a lot as a family. I did a fundraiser for a girlfriend of mine in a wheelchair on the roller rink. And most people don't know that I just absolutely love roller skating. The music, the movement.
Wow, that's amazing. And again, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to come on. I do truly appreciate that. So thank you.
My hope is that a lot of young kids get to hear this. They get to look at me and you and go, wow, how do they become friends? And see the differences and see the similarities, and then see your beautiful dad's face pop in. Editor, do not edit that out. That's a precious moment. It is. It's why my kids are successful, because I brought them both to events. And I brought them both. In fact, I signed one of my biggest deals in New York City. I was doing a book deal years ago, and my daughter was sitting on my lap doing tic-tac-toe. And I remember one of the secretaries came in and said, do you want me to remove your kids? And I'm like, no. See, by the way, 2 things. My kids are the most important thing. So if the phone rings and we're doing a deal, I pick it up for them because at the end of my life, this deal will have come and gone. They won't be. And they need to know how much I care. But they also get to see this. And one of the reasons my daughter's so passionate to help her mom is I got screwed over in the early days of business. I was not very good at this. I'm not the best deal maker or broker, or I'm too not, whatever the issues were back then. And she watched all of this. And interesting thing about kids, no matter what your parent does, you don't really listen to them, but you do watch what they do. And you watch the good and bad, and you make decisions about that. So I'm all excited for you to be speaking to kids. I'd like to speak to more kids. I'm happy to go into high schools and colleges anytime, anywhere, because they don't get to hear us. They certainly don't get to meet someone like me. And then when you also look at me and go, wow, she's really successful. And I am. I've got lots of stuff, beautiful stuff going on, but it wasn't always this way. And so people need to know, none of us. And by the way, just to finish, my friends who got handed, like they grew up with a trust fund or they got handed things, not necessarily the most interesting people on the planet. They're not always that happy either because they're trying to find their self-worth. And a lot of what your self-worth comes from is the journey you go through to get there. But put your dad's face back over here. I like his face.
You're preaching to him. That's it. Thank you.
I want to be preaching to a lot of kids because I think that's what we get to do in this life. And I can't wait. We're going to meet again. I'm going to let you watch the TEDx talk about me and Dexter. And I would love, as a kid and as a dad, just to get your perspective, because I say some pretty out of the box things in this one.
Deal. I promise you. I'm going to watch it today.
All right. I've got to send it. And by the way, Mychal, you need a TED Talk. Do you have one yet?
No, I don't.
Let's figure out how to get you one. Put that on your radar because there's no too young. You'll never be the youngest. It's like a 5-year-old girl's got a TED Talk. You guys, if you're listening to this, remember I said getting a good education? One of the greatest educations you can get is watch a TED Talk a day. I did it for a year. There are so many topics. There's a topic on how to we all tie our shoes the wrong way. Did you know that? If you tie your shoe the opposite way, it doesn't untie. Who knew that?
Wow.
That's a little pebble, but there's TED Talks on everything, and you should find a reason to give one, both of you.
Okay.
Mychal, yours might be as crazy as how do you raise a kid in today's society that writes a book by the time he's 19?
That's it.
Because you had to have done some things that we as parents would love to know. And
Yeah,
you and I probably have forgotten more things than most people will ever.
No, it's funny that you say that because another thing that he wouldn't say is we built a whole curriculum around what he did. So when that teacher told him it was unrealistic for him to be a CEO, and in that moment, him be able to say, no, it is realistic, that happened then, but that started when he was like 2 years old. Because he, like you said, your daughter would watch, and he would watch me build these businesses. And, you know, I got a lot of awards, you know, Difference Maker Awards, 40 under 40, all of these things. And outside, they see all of that. But he also seeing the blood, sweat, and tears and the failing and the failing and the failing and the failing and all that stuff. So the reason I went all in with him with this book, because once the teacher said that to him, I said, what do you want to do about it? He said, yeah, Dad, I don't know. I said, we should write a book. Because I had wrote in the book, he talked about he's going to learn from Lemonade book. That's my children's book. So he said, I was about to write a second book. So I said to him, why don't we write a book together? And he said, yes, surprise. I thought he was going to say, Dad, that's corny. And so then I said, oh, okay. Why do you want to write a book? And his response is why I went all in. He said, Dad, I really believe my story could help a lot of people. So when he said that, I put down all my projects and I was like, let's go. And we went full force with this book. And like now we building curriculums. He's leading meetings with superintendents from different districts and they want to bring him into schools. It's crazy what's happening. Thank you for saying what you said. And you're right. I've always been hashtag family first, and it makes a big difference.
Oh, I love that hashtag. So I'll end with a cute little story. And this is fun to have that advocate, which is what I love, the teamwork here. I get called in. My daughter's maybe a junior in high school, maybe sophomore. And the guidance counselor says, your daughter's being disruptive and I need to have a meeting with you. I'm like, excuse me? She said, yeah, we're making resumes in our tech class and she's not going to make a resume because she doesn't think she'll ever need one. And I'm telling her she's going to need to get a job and she keeps saying she'll never have a job. I'm like, okay. So I go in to meet with the guidance counselor and I'm who I am. And I sat down with this woman and I said, so what's the problem? She said, we're all making resumes and McKenna keeps saying that she's never going to need a resume because she's never going to work for anybody. That's just not realistic. And I looked at this woman and McKenna's sitting there and she's, Mom, please don't do this. And I'm like, I ask you how much money you make a year? And she said, excuse me? So I looked up guidance counselor at $62,000 a year. That's how much money you make. She said, so? I said, see that little girl over there? She made $62,000 last month online. Why would she need a job? And he was like, oh, Mom, you didn't need to go there, because no one could comprehend what she was doing. And I do think, and this is, Mychal, this is for you, the fact that I stood up for her, because she tells this story a lot, that nobody in her family believed her. Her grandmother, with all of her beautiful heart, sat her down and, like, when she was younger, and said, you should be like your cousin who's working in that clothing store making $16 an hour. She's got a really good job. And McKenna's mom, like, I know, your grandma's never going to understand that you already make more money than that and you already own a business, because look at you, you're a little girl. How could a little girl possibly figure that out? Mychal, we need you to, I love the fact that you are the age that you are now, because and you got to be going all in now, because by the time you're my dad, not my age, it's assumed that we figured it out. But at your age, you can really make a difference.
Thank you.
So anytime you're feeling insecure, call me, bend over, and I'll give you a good kick in the butt.
Perfect.
Hey, guys out there, so you're still watching this and by the way, you should keep that conversation in there. I don't think most podcasts ever get to hear the real deal. And I think that's what's popular right now. Guys, you want to find me, go on to Forbes Riley anything. ForbesRiley.com, on Facebook, on Instagram, certainly on YouTube. Find the TEDx talk. And then if you're wondering a little bit, I started somebody's career. And imagine what I could do for you if I could do this for her. Her name, and I think you may have heard of her, her name is Kim Kardashian. Yeah. There's a video on YouTube how I gave Kim Kardashian her very first start on television ever, long before her TV show hit. So I've got a pretty good eye for talent. So I'm saying that Mychal's going to be successful. I'm right. Don't question me.
Yeah, thank you for that. And before we end, I want to thank every single one of you for all the support you have shown me in my journey of becoming a realistic CEO. I do have a special announcement to make. We have officially released the Multiverse box, which comes with Realistic CEO and all of the books inside of our multiverse, which is the 11A book, Realistic CEO, Finlit, Unrealistic, and also the latest issue of the Realistic CEO podcast magazine. Check out the website at www.realisticceo.com.
I got one more for you, though. Hang on. So this is how Mychal and I met. I have a free gift for you. If you're listening to this, grab the books. I'm so excited about what he does. But come meet me live on a Sunday. I'm still doing this. It's now 6 years. Every Sunday I go live, and it's free for you guys. So you go to www.pitchsecrets.training.com. Pitch Secrets Training. It's a Sunday. I'm live. That's how Mychal and I first met. Come and explore our universe. Because if you want to be on a path like Mychal, there's some things that you want to learn. You want to learn how to write. You want to learn how to be grammatically correct, be on stage. But at the end of the day, you got to learn how to pitch your idea, or no one's going to listen to you.
I got to jump in too. And I'm telling you, if you thinking about it, do it. Forbes is the truth. He's the real deal. Like, I watched Mychal transform dramatically. I think he even jumped into something else afterwards, and he's planning on doing more with you because the ROI is incredible. Like, we had a person, it was actually someone from a chamber of commerce that, first of all, let me tell you the full story, full story. So who's ever running your ads are incredible, because I kept getting the ads of someone pitching and you stop and you go, wait a minute, hold on, you said this, da. So it's Forbes Riley. We go to a networking event, and the lady, she's from the Chamber of Commerce, and I wish I could remember, it was a Veterans Chamber of Commerce in the area. And she said, I have this handout that I give out, and there's a bunch of links in there, but this one lady named Forbes Riley, you got to click it and get this thing, whatever the thing was. So it might've been like a worksheet or something that you had. So I got it, and I go, wait, this is the same lady. So then I asked Mychal if he wants to join. And I was like, just do the Sunday and see if you like it. And he absolutely loved it. Now, Mychal, he doesn't like anything. He's 19, but he's 65. Nope, I'm not doing that. He said, no, Dad, this is great. So then we invested, and I made him pay for the pitch class. So he had to pay me back. I covered it. He had to pay me back but he's, Dad, I want to do more. So going back to why people should utilize you is because, one, the value is incredible. Even down to when he started saying, as someone who, and I was like, okay, I like that. Okay. But then even the Facebook group is so supportive and it's not fake, and people were pumping life into him. And literally his confidence went from, he would teeter around 20% up to 150% just from what you did. Because everything that I tell him, everything mom tells him, yeah, okay, your mom and dad, you're supposed to say that. But for someone at your caliber to see it, it reminded me of when he met John Sertina, Vermont Teddy Bear founder, and John pumped life into him. And it was the same switch. And then going into the schools after you, his confidence was even more. The impact that you had wasn't just for him, but it's also for the kids that he helps, because he moved. Like right now, today, he has to go do a program and I can't make it. I said, "You gonna be good in it?" "Oh yeah, Dad, I can do it." If this was a year ago, he'd be like nervous. So like anyone, and we'll put the link on the screen and we'll put it in the show notes. But sign up for the Sunday class, get to meet Forbes, and then sign up for everything else after that, because it's worth it. And I don't endorse just any and everything. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And she didn't know I was going to do this.
No, Mychal, Dad, stay in here for a second. Mychal, give a testimonial as well. Because we don't have enough young people here. So, since Pitch Secrets Masterclass or training with Forbes is, share that.
Training with Forbes is something that I didn't think I needed until I was there, and I realized the impact that you have when it comes to helping others. Even when I'm not the one that's on the stage in the hot seat, I was able to take in a lot of information from the other people, and I was lucky enough to have a chance to come up on the hot seat. I remember the first time when I went on, I was like, I have anxiety, I'm super nervous. Then you're like, cancel, don't say that. And I had to reframe everything that I said. And from that day on, it allowed me to feel a lot more comfortable, because I was on a Zoom. There were like 500 people in the class at the time. And my first time ever going on Zoom, I was definitely terrified. But when you said cancel, it made me reframe what I said. That helped me change my mindset to where I am today. So just that simple 2-second interaction when you said cancel helped me. There's like a switch in my brain that allowed me to change the way that I thought about what I'm saying in the comments, and it allows me to go and have these meetings now where I'm able to lead. At first, I would act like I was confident enough to go lead these meetings, but I really wasn't. But now when I'm in the meetings, I'm like, okay, it's just a normal, regular person I'm talking with, and let's see what we can do.
I'm loving Proud Papa over here. And thank you for the endorsement. I love what I do. I come from the heart. It's a family business with me and my daughter and my son. And here's my thing for you guys is I'm finally releasing a book with just my name on it. And I'm going to go do a tour around the country. Let's get into some high schools. Let's get into some, because this little word here, not a business word. In my world, it is a word that you get anything that you want in life because you think differently. And if it generates confidence because you get what you want, we're building a sense of people who are happy. I don't think most people are happy. They're just struggling, and they say they're struggling, and then they are struggling, and then they pass that to their kids and their neighbors, their family. And it's systemic, this level of not confident. I'm not good enough. And if I could shatter that with all my being, I would.
That's it. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. We're going to call it To Be Continued. This is a great conversation. Yeah. Mychal, you're in my world, in my family. Mychal Sr., you're adorable. I love the energy and the passion, not only for your son, but for wanting to help people. It warms my heart. It's so nice to see. So let's see how we can elevate all of us.
Before we end, I want to thank every single one of you for all the support you have shown me in my journey of becoming a realistic CEO. I do have a special announcement for you. The Realistic CEO Multiverse is now out. You can get it on our website at www.realisticceo.com. So what the Multiverse is it comes with every single book that is in the lines of the Realistic CEO Multiverse. So you get Realistic CEO, Lemonade book, Been Lit, Unrealistic, and also the latest issue of the Realistic CEO podcast magazine. You can get it on our website at www.realisticceo.com. See you in the next one. Peace.